Hello guys and welcome. This is Mr. Siege. Now, first of all, we're doing John testing today. In fact, it's already done. Now, I want to show you on my Discord channel, there is a section called Best Pairings from Tests, and on this channel, I have got a spreadsheet done by no other than Dvesk from 3407, an absolute legend, and he's done some great stuff for me. He's put everything in this spreadsheet, and we can see all the results from all the testing we have ever done. And from this testing, it basically shows us the best marches to use. It tells us, the amount of KP gained over that 3-minute period, the severely wounded units it did to the enemy, and obviously the units remaining as well, which for me makes a massive deal. And we're basically done a calculation to then give us the best results on the marches in total. And obviously we've got Garia, Cordoba at the top, we've got Garia Babur, Cordoba Garia, and yeah, so now we're going to add John onto this after I've done this testing. So once you've seen this, we'll go through this again and we'll see where this holds on the spreadsheet. So you can see we've got the epic commanders also. We've got Cordoba Narcissus there, and that gave us some decent results as well. And yeah, so if you haven't joined the Discord server, go and join it, and you've got all this information in front of you, and you can judge which marches you're going to use or you could use. Now, after this video also, I will be making a tier list, okay? Best marches, S tier. Obviously the best marches of Siege are going to be the S tier. S for Siege tier, clearly. So let's crack on with testing. First test I'm going to do is the one I think is going to be the best pairing for John, which is obviously going to be John Cordoba because of Cordoba's AoE. So we're doing the same test as we have done before, the 3-minute test. Obviously, we're going to hit as Zhuge Liang and Herman exactly as we did before. Now, you can see the amount of AoE we're doing here is damaging the other marches quite massively. And obviously then we've changed targets and we've resent the Zhuge Liang out so that he can get hit by the AoE all over again. So this AoE on Cordoba is absolutely ridiculous. Look at the damage it's been doing to other troops. And we even got onto the Nevsky March, the 3rd March. Now, report-wise, 649%, nearly 16k severely wounded for us, 103,000 for the enemy. And again, we have Lisco here this time, with exactly the same marches as we did on them before, so thank you Lisco for helping us. It was big hands last time, but Lisco's had to step in, and yeah, thank you very, very much to him. You may have seen him on some of the Among Us videos I've done as well. So this time we've swapped the primary. We've got Cordoba as primary, John as secondary, and we're doing exactly the same test all over again. Now, I must say, if you want to watch these tests all in full, every single AoE hit, and every time we swap a commander out, this is sped up around 8 times the speed. Okay, it's a 3-minute test. So if you want to reduce the speed, you can do. And you can watch it all as it happened. 18,000 severes for us this time, and 107,000 to them. So it did do more damage. We took 18,000 instead, which is 3k more. 140,000 remaining from the previous test, and this time we've got 137,000 remaining, so not much difference in that. So it's done slightly more damage, but we did take more severely wounded ourselves, which is, you don't really want too much. This time we're going to do the Margaret tests. John primary first, Margaret secondary. Now, we do know that John's got the support tree, and I've used exactly the same support tree as I would have used on Margaret in the past. So if you haven't again seen that, go and check out my Discord channel. It's all on there, the talent trees I use. Now, you may not want to use this talent tree if you're running John Margaret, because you're not getting exactly the right buffs as you would if you're running John Cordoba. Now, yeah, I've got a bit of a bug, so be wary of that in this one. 17,500 to 78,000, not amazing. 130k remaining, not a great report, especially in comparison to the Cordoba report. Now, running Margaret's primary, John's secondary, and let's see if the results change. Now, the results should change slightly because Margaret will buff John not John's active skill, but it will buff the normal attacks. It could potentially be better, but yeah, probably very, very minimal in my eyes at the moment. So 17,700 to 73,000. Nearly 18,000. Not much different to there. 78,000. Yeah, not a great deal of difference there. We didn't do as much damage with Margaret's primary, which is surprising. So John primary is probably the play. And in fact, what I do want to say about John is because of John's rage gain on his third skill. I think it's his third skill. We've only put 2 points into rejuvenate because we don't want to over rage. Phil did a bit of a calculation on this and he said don't put 3 points in. You may as well put another point in on the skill that does the attack after another skill. Okay, the talent that raises the attack by 3% after launching an active skill, and that's probably better. So I will show you the talent tree actually later in the video. So 13k to 85k, John Babur, very, very strong. I expected this to be probably the best pairing outside of the Cordoba pairing that we would get, and it's looking very strong. 141k remaining. It's not got great sustain. I expected a little bit better. Now, so far looking at these tests, I do think Steven is actually going to be the best pairing for John. You know, they've been brought out together, and with Steven's heal, which is really, really strong, I actually think it's going to give John a hell of a lot more sustain. So for me, at the moment, Steven is probably going to be the priority for pairing with John. But if you do have Cordoba, you've seen that result. It's actually very, very strong. Obviously, we did the AoE from Cordoba, and the other marches were already down to 50%. So then switching over to a 50% target is going to absolutely smash because of John's fourth skill. 15,000 to 89,000, that is probably better. We did take a few more severely wounded, but we've dealt more severely wounded troops to the enemy, so that's nearly 1,800 KP. 1.8 million KP to that 1.7. Very minimal with that pairing. So John primary and Garia Armada secondary is this next test. Now honestly, I didn't expect much from this, but then I thought about it again, and you've got a great heal from Garia Armada. Not great synergy because obviously we've got a smite commander and a skill commander, but actually Garia Armada does slap. It does hit hard, especially if it stays connected to the target, which you're going to do in these scenarios. And that heal from Garia Armada does help John have a decent amount of sustain. So the results here are quite decent. 15,000 to 88,000, nearly 89,000. Very, very similar to before. Pretty much identical to this other report where Babur was primary with John. Now, you wouldn't really expect that with a skill and smite synergy because there isn't any synergy there really. So next up, we're obviously going to switch commanders around and have Garia Armada with John. Now, this should work about the same, but have a little bit more heal. Probably not going to do as much damage because of obviously Garia Armada's support tree, but it will keep him on the field a lot longer, and this could be a massive, massive benefit. Obviously, it's going to be really interesting throwing these into that spreadsheet at the end and being able to compare all the results to these new ones with John, and then seeing what the best marches are right now before Steven lands in the game. Obviously, Steven will make a bit of a difference. I'd expect quite a large difference. So yeah, 15,000 to 87,000, really, really similar. We're not going to know exact results until we put it into the spreadsheet and see which ones are actually better. Now, one thing I didn't try out in this test was John with Caesar, which I possibly could have done. That would have been a massive amount of all damage once the troop gets down to a certain percentage. Maybe I'll do that in another test soon. Maybe on the next one when Steven comes out, I might have a chance to test it as well. But now we've got John and Narcissus, and for an epic commander with a legendary commander, this is doing very, very well. You know, we didn't quite kill Scipio, but you kind of expect that really with having an epic commander running as well. So let's check out the result in a second. First of all, we'll send out the opposite way around, Narcissus primary. Again, this is going to do more damage, no, less damage. This is going to do less damage, but have more of a heal. So here's the results from the John Narcissus. You know, 15k to 52 isn't bad. 351% KP ratio for a legendary and an epic commander. This will be out in the field. I think it's a decent result. And what you may have seen there is there was still a fair amount of troops remaining. 148,000, you know, that isn't too bad. Before, though, with Garge Armada, 175,000 remaining. That's probably one of the best yet. Again, we can compare that in the results once they're put into the spreadsheet. So Narcissus primary, a load more heal going on here. This is probably going to be like similar to Garge Armada John, but without the amount of damage, really. I think at the moment, if you're going to get one of these epic commanders and pair them with a legendary commander, Narcissus is definitely looking better for sustain. Now, if you're running multiple marches, you may want to put the Katherine on the field, because Katherine does the debuff and buffs. So now we are going to try Katherine. We're going to try Katherine as secondary first, and obviously we've got John as primary. So it's doing a decent job in terms of damage, I can see here, but in terms of sustain, very, very poor by the looks of it. You know, we died fairly fast. My march was losing a lot of health fairly quickly. So this time, Katherine primary, John secondary, and we'll check out the results. So 324%, you know, nearly a million KP. Not too bad, not too bad really. But 168 remaining for Narcissus, 104,000 remaining for that John Katherine. And you know what? You probably can't do much more than that. You'd have to return your troop. Not very effective on the field in a whole. It's doing a lot of damage over a short period of time, but you've not got that sustain, and you're probably going to want some kind of sustain on the field. So I don't think Katherine and John is, or John Katherine, is that great a march looking at this now. You know, your march, you don't want your march losing that much health within 3 minutes. So the result for Katherine and John here was 14,400 to 46,000. 99k remaining, not great really. 104k remaining before. So the John Katherine, yeah, the John Katherine definitely performed better, but very, very minimal. And I definitely wouldn't recommend that as a march. You're going to die way too fast on the field. Totally not ideal. Now, we did have some good results, and we're going to put those now into that spreadsheet and compare where sort of right now John stands in terms of the best marches. And then when Steven comes out, we're going to max him ASAP, straight away pretty much, and do the same testing all over again. We'll be able to test with John. I'm sure John's going to be his best pairing, to be honest with you, like I said, but yeah, we'll check that out very, very shortly. So guys, now that all the testing is completed, my buddy Devesk has put all the new results into this spreadsheet from John testing today. And it's looking okay, but to be honest, it's definitely not a game changer. John definitely isn't a game changer. Now, he may be when Steven comes out, and that I think will be the case. I think the John and Steven pairing will be very, very strong. But at the moment, we're looking at like 7th or 8th in the list, and his best pairing actually at the moment seems to be Garge Armada. It'd be either Cordoba or Garge Armada. It's very, very close. Cordoba will give you more severely wounded units to the enemy, but you have a lot less remaining, 137,000 remaining when the Cordoba John march. Now the Garja John actually had 175k remaining, so the Garja John march actually had 175k remaining, and that means he's going to be able to be in battle a lot longer. So that looks to me like to be the best pairing at the moment. I know, like I say, it didn't give as many kill points, but it's going to have a lot more sustain. It's going to be on the field a lot longer. Now, in terms of actual results, the marches we've tested today, around the 22 to 23,000, the top marches with John in, are all very, very similar. Okay, I don't think they're going to be bad marches on the field, but there's no clear-cut march that I would say, whoa, that is overwhelmingly good at the moment. And Steven could be that option with the heel, a bit of defense. I think he could be very strong. If we look here, we've got Cordoba and Caesar with the obviously the museum relic. He's almost coming out just as good as Cordoba and John, or John Cordoba, in terms of the output, or very similar with the amount of units remaining. So at this point, would it be worth investing in John to pair with Cordoba? I don't think so. And if you're going to invest in anybody, I would probably, you could run a 5-1-1-1 Margaret there with Cordoba, and you're going to get great results. But still, at the moment, we're looking at Garia Cordoba or Cordoba Garia, and that is going to give you the best results. Still number one in terms of ranged combat. 196,000 remaining, 200k remaining on these top two marches, which is absolutely crazy, and then doing a huge output of damage. Margaret Cordoba, again, over here is doing a ton of damage, decent amount of KP, but the units remaining is sort of on the low side. She could just do with a little bit more of a better heal, or a little bit more health and defense, and I think that could have been absolutely amazing. But yeah, John doesn't seem to be as great as he could be. He's just lacking things, and I think Steven will bring those things into the game for John. Overall, it's another strong commander. I mean, comparing to some of the epics, you've got Cordoba Narcissus down here, 1.3 mil KP over 2 minutes. He's doing a lot more than that. He's a lot better than the epic commanders, as expected. So it's not disappointing, and I think he's going to get so much better when Steven arrives. Now, guys, just a few things to mention before we end this video. Now, John benefits from hitting marches under 50% health. So maybe I've got to sort of devise a new kind of test for specifically John's testing. So when Steven comes into the game, maybe I've got to think of something else, because John is going to do a ton more damage to those marches with half the units remaining. And this could be completely meta changing in terms of ranged combat for Rise of Kingdoms right now. Steven's going to bring everything to the field that John needs, and when we're attacking marches with low health, that's going to be absolutely devastating. So we'll just have to find out and see. Now, this is Mr. Siege. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and bye bye.